This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, June 12th, 2025, and the wonderful TK Bay is joining me today. Hi, TK. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm tired. It's been a long week. Surprisingly, it's Thursday, but it is very nice to be able to just hang out and chill and chat with you. And nice to see you again. It's been a while, actually, since we've seen each other in person.
Indeed. Virtually. It's been a week. It's been definitely a week, not just work-wise, but like the world, wow. LA, the crash in India.
Dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, exactly. Woke up to that one this morning. That was crazy.
Yeah, first Dreamliner loss ever. Anyway, let's talk about some tech, because obviously Apple had a lot to say this week. So I want to talk about that with you. We're not Apple people, which I think is going to make it more interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, when I thought about it, I was like, okay, I mean, I use Apple products. I'm not going to deny the fact that I'm an avid MacBook Pro user, and I've been a convert for the last few years, but I'm still a hardcore PC side. I mean, my desktop is a PC.
Yeah,
my
I
gaming
have PCs
rig.
as well. Yeah, I do.
No,
both.
absolutely. So and
then I have a couple of iPhones. One is mine, one is Apple's review unit. Yeah. But I'm not I don't have an iPad. I don't have my spouse has an Apple Watch, but I don't have AirPods of any kind around the house. I've actually asked Apple to send me a pair because I'm like, listen, it'd be nice to have some kind of ecosystem experience when I test these devices. Now that you're sending me devices, and I have not managed to get them to respond to that yet. I mean, they said, we'll look into it, and, nothing's happened. But it's fine. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
Baby steps.
It'll take time.
Exactly.
Yes. What I'm really excited about is the iPhone 17 Air. If they send me one of those, that's all I want right now. Mm-hmm. Because I just reviewed the Galaxy S25 Edge on Hot Hardware. Like, I covered it on the podcast like 2 or 3 weeks ago in my review, but I had to write it up and test it more thoroughly, do benchmarks and stuff. So go to Hot Hardware, check that out. You've done a whole bunch of stuff recently, but one of the phones that I've kind of mentioned, first impressions, basically did a mini unboxing for the Patreons who watch this on video, 2 or 3 podcasts ago, but I haven't reviewed yet. And you and I have had lots of saddle time with this phone. And it's the Realme GT7 non-Pro, which is a phenomenal little phone. Well, not that little.
It was a surprise when I first got, like, when they first connected with us and they reached out and they talked to, I was like, the 7? It was a confusing part because of the release time.
6 months ago, we got a 7 Pro,
which
was
the
a better phone.
It technically is better in some aspects. There are some,
some ways.
Definite benefits there. But the 7 came with a big uptick. A brand new chip again, kind of like what they did with the 7 Pro, but they one-upped the 7 Pro. I mean, they even brought, like, dare I say, le rêve.
Le rêve.
Le GT7
explain
Le rêve.
For those who do not speak French.
So the Dream Edition, or what Realme is dubbing the Dream Edition, is the Formula One collaboration edition of the GT7. Realme as a company,
Aston Martin, correct?
With Aston Martin. Oh, absolutely. The Aston Martin, let's bring that back here just to kind of get it. The green that you're seeing here is an Aston Martin green. The sections on the side of it where the ventilation, or basically the aerodynamic of a race car is built into the essence of this device. It goes from not only from the phone, it goes to the theme, the aesthetics. I mean, it almost looks like an entire phone from the standard GT7, and they've dubbed it the Dream Edition, Le Rêve, the Dream, and it's been so nice. It's powered by some of our favorite chipset, obviously the Dimensity 9400E.
Which is interesting too in its own right, because it competes with the
Snapdragon, I think 8S Gen 4.
That's it, 8S Gen 4.
Which is another conversation.
But it's actually a derivative of the Dimensity 9300 Plus, from what I gather.
To a certain point, I think it is. It's for the most part, it feels kind of like a step up from there as opposed to a step down from the 94. But I think the way the MediaTek wanted to kind of highlight the experience is we have the 94, the 9400 Plus, and then the 9400E, kind of hitting the middle, top, and bottom experience. I personally say the 9400E is a champ. It is a powerhouse to be reckoned with.
It's amazing.
It is connectivity, mobile gaming. I mean, heck, the biggest upgrade over the 7 Pro is the fact that it has a 7000.
And that's it.
It's in the name. It's 7000. You know, like I wanted 9,000 so we can do a Dragon Ball joke, but 7,000. And I kid you not, I tried for 2 solid days. So I left LA, I think it was a Sunday, because I had the opportunity to go attend the launch event. I left LA on Sunday morning and I was using the phone throughout the flight, landed in Paris and continued to the following day. And I still didn't kill the battery. And like, it was just crazy how long the battery life is.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not going that much. I mean, we're going over 2,000 more, but the optimizations, the functionalities, the beautiful display, just the overall, I mean, the camera is obviously, I'll say the 7 Pro still wins that department, primarily because it's a much better.
Let's talk about that actually a little bit.
Yeah, the camera experience obviously is better rounded there. They have better ultra wides, better sensors all around, not just a really good main sensor, but I love the fact that we get 4K 60 on across the lenses. I like the cooling materials they're using on the back. It's non-sticky, non-fingerprint tracking, and it cools so much better.
Yeah.
But the 7 Pro still holds. I mean, I think the 8 Elite is still a better chip.
For sure.
If you're looking for powerhouse. I even think, just from I/O and so on, I think it's as a device, both of them are great. And I love the fact that they are releasing special editions because that's something I love about Realme. They made a Dragon Ball phone. They made a Naruto phone.
I love it. I've got their Pepsi one, I think, and I got some of the limited game edition ones too. I can't remember what they were. They were amazing.
Yeah. Oh no, it's fun to see them do that because almost no other OEMs doing that. I mean, they pretty much we get collaborations with like Zeiss, Hasselblad, all of those cameras companies.
OnePlus does have Genshin Impact.
They do have. Oh, that's right. That's right. That was last year, right? With the
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row. Okay, yeah.
It was, I think I want to say 12.
I want to say the 12R. The 12R has
13R or the 13. Anyway, 13R, I think.
Probably, yeah.
So, you brought up the batteries. It's interesting, actually. I want to, putting them side by side, the Pro and the non-Pro, they're very similar. Cosmetically, also very similar. One is that great orange hue, but there are a few differences. I mean, price obviously is, it's not that huge in price, actually, because Realme is pretty competitive on their pricing. Neither have wireless charging, but both have really fast wire charging. But the difference in battery size, 7,000, as you said, incredible. I'm getting 3 days because it's not my main phone right now. It's just, I'm testing it. So I use it like part of the time, like easily 3 days, maybe 4 days even. I don't know, like absolutely. It's insane. Yeah. And then, but I have to mention, honorable mention, the GT7 Pro has 6,500. It's very close. Oh yeah. And then you're right about the cameras. The only difference, honestly, is the telephoto. The ultra wide is identical. It's not a great ultra wide. It's just like an 8 megapixel, like the Fine N5, a little degraded. And then the main sensor is the same exactly. And then, but somehow, and this is kind of boneheaded to me. I don't understand this. Like, Moto did it last year with the Razr Plus, and the Razr Plus continues this year. It's basically the same. But this concept of 2x telephotos that have no OIS, that are essentially portrait lenses, like, and it's 50 megapixels too. Like, why? Because you have 50 megapixels there that can be pixel binned and cropped in sensor and everything, and you have OIS on the main camera, you don't have OIS on, so 3x makes sense, but 2x, so, I understand that they're saving money, but like, not that the camera system is bad, because there has been cases in the past where the regular GT version from Realme had dog crap cameras, and the absolutely. Pro had amazing cameras, right? This year, there's very little difference between the Pro and the non-Pro in terms of camera. And I think the compromise they made are acceptable. I just feel like, why didn't you just, not even just skip the telephoto at this point? Like, 2x, please.
Well, so the way the lenses are set up, if I'm not mistaken, on the GT7, it actually doesn't have a telephoto lens. It only has 2 lenses, an ultra wide and a main sensor. The telephoto that we're using on the GT7 is actually a crop on the main sensor.
It does have 3 sensors: 50 megapixel f/over 2.0, phase detect autofocus, no OIS, 2 times optical zoom.
Did I? Maybe I am getting. Okay. Well,
yeah, you can actually see it there. It's that third one. It's a camera.
It's an 8. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's an 8. That's why it's a tiny little thing. Okay.
Yeah, so the ultra wide is an 8. No, but the telephoto is a 50.
Yeah. It is a 50, but I was referring to the ultra wide. I thought it was the ultra wide because the way it's set up on the actual sensor on the back, it's almost confusing. But because I've moved on, I'm trying to refresh my memory. Because, as you know.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I feel like what really stands out for this phone is that battery. Once you get that battery life, like it's funny because in one pocket I have that phone, and then the other pocket I have the Edge, right? The S25 Edge, and they're like the polar opposites. It's like, okay, I'm getting, because I don't use it in them full times, I'm getting 2 days out of the Edge, but like barely, and mostly just idling right in my pocket, and then I'm getting like 4 days out of the GT7, you know, and it tracks, right, double the battery essentially, right, almost. So
it does, and surprisingly, the Edge was able. I mean, I'll say that it is not the largest battery on the market. It does carry through the day with mixed usage. And as I typically did when I did my battery test for the Edge, I had to purposely remember not to put it on a wireless charger. The issue is because I drive a Tesla and I even have a wireless charger on my desk in my office.
Most cars do nowadays. And we all have them, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And it's inadvertently, you always think of it when you get in the car, you put your phone on the charger. You don't actively remember that you're doing it anymore. So with the Edge, purposely to be able to see, because I did it when I went to I/O. I left early in the morning because I did I/O in one day because it's so close. Right. I just flew up and came back. And I wanted to see, can I get the Edge to last me the entire day, including content capture, posting, responding to answer, and then even sampling some audio clips and so on. And it will last. It's not going to last with 20 to 30%. It lasted with it maybe 2% till like 9 p.m. But at the end of the day, the champ right now with all of the devices that we have, it is the GT7 Pro. The Dream or non-Dream edition. They're exactly the same when it comes to the battery and the charging.
I know. And then the other thing that's surprising is that, you're getting a like thin phone. It's actually thinner than the GT7 Pro. The GT7 is 8.3 millimeters.
Oh, wow.
The GT7 Pro is 8.6 millimeters.
See, that's time and ingenuity. That's all I have to say.
So here's what I think is going to happen. And because these are the two poster children for this, is we're going to, going forward 2, 3, 5 years from now, when we look at phones, there'll be kind of two categories in flagship space, because this is a pseudo flagship, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to have these phones that are the same thickness as we're used to today, between 7 and 9 millimeters. And then I'm going to have 7, 8, even 10. I think we're going to reach 10,000 by 5 years from now. And we'll need it probably because of chipsets. But we'll also have super thin, like 4, 5 millimeter phones but have batteries that are, smaller, but still silicon carbon and all that. And I think it's going to be where it kind of normalizes. You'll have to pick, do I want insane battery life, or do I want something that, feels less bulky in my pocket? And all manufacturers are going to supply you options for those two things. I think that's kind of where we're going. And that's why I think putting these two phones side by side in our pockets right now and putting them side by side on this podcast, although we're not focusing on the Edge because I've covered it extensively. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's critical because I think it shows us two possible paths, but also two paths that could coexist and happen in parallel, right?
I think it's a big decision with larger smartphones, right? We no longer, we used to call them phablets at one point. Both of these devices are considered a phablet by, first note and second note, nomenclature. And the fact is, the Edge can go into your pocket. And for me, I kid you not, the first time I did, I almost forgot that it was in there.
It's amazing.
The weight difference is so big, and the thinness on the device that it almost doesn't even have a crease in the jeans when I'm putting them in there. So it surprised me. So that was the wow factor when I first held it. And
I agree.
Using it, the display, the technology is beautiful. As you said, as we get better with technology, with battery technology and getting more denser battery capacity so that we're able to get larger batteries in smaller form factor, a la, GT7 Dream or Standard Edition. It is absolutely fantastic. And I love Le Rêve, le GT7. How do you say? Le GT7 Rêve. Yeah.
Edition Rêve.
Edition Rêve.
Which right now is funny because Aston Martin, very British car company.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing I find really interesting about this phone, both of them, the Rêve and the non-Rêve, is that they both have plastic frames, which is one of the downgrades. And it's fine. I don't, I get it. Ideally, I would like a metal frame like the GT7 Pro, which is nice. But I'm willing to. But what's really weird to me is that they made a Aston Martin, a premium branded model that's specifically different, has a different back cover and has absolutely all this skinning, but they kept the plastic frame. Like, why didn't you put a metal frame on a phone that's a premium brand, especially it's a Formula One tribute. Like they only use fancy materials. They don't use plastic. They use carbon fiber reinforced
absolutely.
plastic. Yeah. They use, aluminum. They use, all these fancy magnesium and titanium, right? Now, I know they're trying to keep the cost reasonable. That's Realme's kind of MO. But I would have liked them to just go like, let's make this a little more Aston Martin-y. In fact, I would have been, if I'd been Aston Martin, I would have been like, okay, can you make this metal?
Make it out of the same materials as what the car would be made of.
Doesn't match our cars,
Yeah. No. So I'll say this: Aston Martin was there in full force. They had they actually brought out a car. They even had simulators sitting in there. They gave us the Real Meow the in Aston Martin green. Actually, they gave it to us in there, holding the helmet. I think at the end, when they're looking at it from the price point, if you just look at it just from base price point, the Dream Edition is practically priced at a flagship experience.
What is it?
I think it's about €1,000 if I wasn't mistaken. So it's already pushing.
It should be metal.
It should be, right? So I think from those type of experiences, there was a few people that did comment on that, and we made sure that the PR people were aware. A lot of the time, by the time we see the product, it's been months and months of decisions and conversations and back and forth. So hopefully they'll take that for consideration in the next edition. But they did hint a lot to that the GT8 series is going to be a very big change and a lot of nice surprises and things that people really want. So we're excited for that. Hopefully, probably later in the year, when the next generation of Snapdragon is released. And as we always, they're trying to be first. Qualcomm moves up their dates all the time. So
I just want to also note another thing that's weird besides the plastic, which tells me that maybe this is just purely a weird marketing exercise that half of Aston Martin doesn't know exists. Mm-hmm. Because Aston Martin is the poster child for CarPlay Ultra. When CarPlay Ultra was announced, it was the first car company with a car that had support for Ultra was Aston Martin. In fact, at WWDC, this is our great segue.
Absolutely.
We had a Aston Martin SUV being driven around inside the campus. So I find this really puzzling because it feels to me that this is kind of more of a China Aston Martin PR than UK Aston Martin PR. Because you know what I'm saying, right? Like, that a lot of the European brands are really big in China, right?
Oh, no, absolutely.
And so, and their status symbols, like they are here, but they're also really big. And then, of course, then it makes sense to have a Realme partnership, right?
Yeah, no.
Realme is known for making cutting edge devices that are affordable. Now, Aston Martin makes cutting edge cars that are not affordable, but it doesn't matter, right? The point is you have that kind of association of leading edge products, right?
Yes.
And so I see the connection, especially for Chinese market where Apple is really strong in China, but they're not, as strong as like if you add up all the Android devices.
Oh, no, absolutely. Make, right? Home territory, definitely Huawei and some of the other companies.
It's not like the US where Apple clearly dominates, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so to me, it's kind of interesting that they also have for the West here, this Apple partnership, the Apple CarPlay Ultra. We live in a weird world.
It is very weird, but it's okay. I'll say this: I've used CarPlay maybe twice, and it was primarily just to see if CarPlay worked, not using it like as in I've navigated places with it. The UI changes in when they talked about it at WWDC, the UI changes that they showed in the Ultra, to me was exciting. Having it fully integrate into the car's infotainment system, air conditioning, conversion, all the different areas that you typically would rely on the car to be a separate menu, right? Because in Android Auto or in CarPlay right now, you have to exit those experiences to kind of get those functions back on the display.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're pretty much just sitting in
and it also means that CarPlay can now access things like the state of charge of your battery, all this guys. So you could potentially navigate by actually using data from the car, which is essential when you're doing absolutely. Planning.
And we don't have that right now. Yeah,
and that's what Tesla wins at doing. That's what Rivian does so well, and nobody else really does well right now. Yeah. There's a few companies out there that have Android Automotive on their cars, Polestar, Volvo, General Motors.
I think Ford has
Honda,
Ford
Acura.
has it on there. Yeah.
They're doing a pretty good job, but it's not, and they have that tight integration because Android Automotive has that tight integration, but
they're still separate.
This is still driven by your phone with CarPlay Ultra. It's not driven by, pardon the pun, the car. So
Google
that's actually
announced
the
that-
interesting part.
Remember, I think was it maybe 2 or 3 years ago at I/O, Google did show us a Hyundai with a full Android Auto running as the entire operating system of the car. So it's nice to see that we're getting competition on both sides. So hopefully that just drives more conversion or bringing companies to start adopting these ecosystems. It's Android or iOS for the most part. If you really look at it, there's no more third. Symbian doesn't exist, and all the other versions of operating system that we have don't really happen there. And most devices, even Chinese devices, surprisingly, like China-made devices like the Find X8 Ultra, have Android Auto.
Yeah,
you plug it in and it works.
I've used it on the Find X8 Ultra actually, and when I test cars, because
exactly.
all the cars I test don't have really good infotainment, so I use
typically
Android Auto.
We don't usually see the Google Play services and so on, but Android Auto is in there. So Google is realizing that is something that is going to be coming out. And if you're able to plug in your phone, it is ultimately the best experience. You don't have to pay, data charges to the car to be able to get that data to go through. So it goes on your phone. All your media is already in there. Your contacts are in there, messages, interactions. Your assistant, hopefully at some point, Gemini will start jumping in, obviously, as well as.
So yeah, that's coming to Android. We heard that at I/O. That's coming to Android Auto and Android Automotive, both. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually really excited about that. Sure. I agree with you that, it makes sense. There are some advantages to having the data connectivity in the vehicle. Better antennas because they're outside the car. Yep. On Teslas, they're in the rearview mirrors, by the way. In case you're ever wondering where your 5G antenna is, don't get your rearview mirror destroyed by, this has happened to me when I had a Tesla, and I have video of it because, Sentry mode. A guy decided to take off my rearview mirror by kicking it, and my connectivity went down.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Bluetooth antennas for detecting the phones coming near the car for unlocking and the 5G, 4G connectivity are all in the shrouding of the
rear view mirror. Okay.
Side mirrors, both of them. So you don't lose all of it because you lose one mirror, but it's kind of a really cool place to put them actually, because if you think about it,
antennas.
It's kind of further away from all the other electronics.
Less interference. They've done some good things in there. I mean,
for sure. Tesla is really good at engineering. That's the bottom line. But here's what I want to say. If you are right now wanting a car experience that's really great, and it's not Rivian or Tesla, which I think are the best right now, Lucid's doing a pretty good job too. But Polestar and Volvo, which are Geely, whatever you want to call them, the Chinese company that makes Zeekr, which is also the making the minivan for Waymo coming up. They all use Android Automotive in a way that just feels like you're in a Tesla. Basically, everything is just super integrated. Yep. And the phone app on your phone, provides all that additional data to the car like it does on Tesla, your calendar, your text messages, your call log and all that stuff. And then there's apps and this, because it's Android, most apps just run. Some of them won't let you be used while the car is driving because they have to be adapted by the developer. So the developers can make changes to their app at 3 levels. Basically, there's you can run the apps as is and they won't work if the car is moving. Or you can run the apps with a few changes from the developer and then it gives you some functionality while driving. And then you can kind of like on iOS and iPadOS where you can create a version for Android Automotive that's different, designed for it and, actually give specific permissions of what can happen while driving. And then it can be used while driving. And that's, how we have a YouTube version for Android Automotive, which is different slightly than the YouTube version for Android Auto, which is different than the one on your phone, your tablet, right?
Or even on your other devices.
But it's really exciting to me to see this happening. And I mean, whether you choose projection, which is CarPlay or Android Auto, because your car doesn't let you do better, or whether you get a car eventually that has native infotainment, whether it's non-Android like Tesla, Rivian, although no, Rivian's core is Android Automotive, but without Google services. Because there's 2 flavors of Android Automotive. There's a gas version, Google Automotive Services, and the non-gas version. Does that sound familiar to anyone who's a mobile tech nerd like we are? GMS and non-GMS, right? For like China, basically.
Exactly.
And so GM, for example, is GAS compliant, so that they have the Play Store and the apps. So does Polestar and Volvo, but Rivian is based on it, but doesn't have it.
Okay.
Who else is based on it and doesn't have it? I think I want to say BMW or some brands. And it's getting more and more common. If I'm like, since I review EVs a lot and I'm getting all the press releases and stuff, like I would say a good 75% of the new cars coming out right now have Android at their core for infotainment, even if it's not the Play Store version.
I think that's a massive improvement over what we used to have in the past. I think a few generations ago, prior to getting the Tesla, I think one of my main characteristics of a car, it needed to have Android Auto. I wasn't going to get it unless it had it because I used it so much and it was such an easy, and I mean, it wasn't wireless. It was still obviously the wired connection at the time, but I appreciated what Ford did in their system before even coming in with the Mach-E. And when they brought in with the Mach-E, they kept Android Auto, although not exactly totally integrated, but it was still, you were able to launch Android Auto and have the benefit of having Android Auto, which I appreciate. I think as we go forward, just for reference, because we talked about Android Auto and Tesla and Rivian, you're able to buy little accessories like these little mini Raspberry Pi PCs to launch and run Android Auto and CarPlay in the car. This is a modded box that I got. I think it's Tesla Android, the Tesla Android project. They're on Twitter. And essentially, it's a small PC. I had to tape it because I broke the screw. And you run it in the browser. It's one of the things that Tesla allows us to use when we're driving our car. Yeah. So you run it in the browser, and so
you get Android Auto in the browser.
Absolutely, and it runs. It has its own SIM card option if you want to run it off its own 4G connection. But if you connect your phone, you can tether it directly over Bluetooth or even a wire tethered connection to it, and then you share your data from your phone to it, and then now your car has Android Auto. And the beautiful thing is the latest update they pushed out allows you to support both displays on the brand new Teslas, the front and the rear. So you can run two instances of it and still have access to, your driving, your information.
I want to be clear, though, that those of you out there, first of all, it's a big question mark whether you want to buy a Tesla. If you have one already, obviously probably keep it because the values are going down and, et cetera. But if you don't, maybe you want to look at something else. Just my thought. But if you do have one, I think the built-in stuff is phenomenal. Like, I really don't think you should be complaining too much. Like, most of the, I don't think you need CarPlay or an Android Auto is what I'm saying. The app on Tesla on your phone acts as kind of a liaison between the data on your phone and the data on the car. And I think it does a pretty damn good job for the essentials. I do think that, I don't know, because I think they added it since I sold my Tesla last summer. Okay. But there is YouTube Music now, right?
One of the reasons why I'm not using this box is it was my only thing.
That was the only thing missing when I had a Tesla.
Exactly. It was the only thing that always drove me crazy because I don't use Slack Radio, and it was never.
And I don't use Apple Music, which was there. I don't use Spotify, which was there.
All of the ones they added was not the ones the moment they added YouTube Music, I was like, okay.
And I want to say also, I drive all the EVs, and none of them can play videos while charging. None of them can. Yes, some of them have a YouTube client. Some of them might have some aggregator app or something. Mercedes has that, where like some company I've never heard of aggregates Netflix, Hulu, and like Paramount in one app, and I'm like, and then it's a subscription you have to pay, and then you have to pay, like, it's stupid, right? You have three subscriptions, like Mercedes, the app, and then your Netflix or whatever.
And the ridiculous. Data, no.
But even Rivian has Chromecast support. But get this, and I talked to them about. Yeah, I talked to them about that because it's an Android automotive setup.
Oh, okay, right? Okay, yeah.
Not all of them have that, but they have the hardware for Chromecast. So you could technically cast anything to your screen while the car is stopped, right? Yes. You're like, hooray, this is the ultimate solution. Add AirPlay and you're done, right?
Exactly, yes.
And they are going to do that. But here's the kicker. And this is what drives me nuts about the car industry. And I love Rivian. And I've given them this feedback. I think they're my favorite right now, because I can't buy a Tesla. But get this. Only iOS devices support Chromecast properly. So it's not the OS's fault. It's the apps. Individual apps choose where they can cast, correct? You know that, right?
Yeah.
No, Netflix decides that they don't want AirPlay to work. So for example, if you AirPlay to a Mac,
Yeah.
It doesn't work with Netflix. Netflix doesn't let you do that.
Okay.
They chose that it's on a web browser. You can't AirPlay from there.
Okay.
Like you have to physically connect your laptop to a display. Okay. So if you have an Apple TV, you have to use Netflix app on the Apple TV. You can't use the web browser on your Mac and cast it.
Yeah.
So it turns out, and I did some trial and error. This was at CES. It gave me a Rivian R1S. I wrote about it on Tech Radar about my experience camping in the R1S at Joshua Tree National Park, and sleeping in it for a night. They gave me this thing, and it was a new version, the Gen 2 that has the Chromecast. I was like, oh, Chromecast, we're saved. None of my Android phone apps would cast properly. Like none of them. Yet I pulled out my iPhone and it just worked. And I was like, what?
Yeah. It goes back to
they didn't even know. Even Rivian didn't know. I guess they don't test on Android.
No, it's
then I guess Chromecast. It should just work, right?
I know. But the weird thing is, it's not surprising how many iPhone users are. Like if it works for them, then it assumes it works for everybody. But they don't really go through and test everything. The answer is you're right.
Like I'm in a Pixel here.
Hey, by the way, happy Android 16 week.
Oh yeah, I forgot to add that as a topic. We should really talk about that.
No, for sure. But just to kind of round off with WWDC, I know we kind of touched base a little bit on the CarPlay. The biggest thing I probably will say is welcome to the club of naming your operating system based on the year, no longer as the number. Finally, we're in sync, right? I mean, we finally sync up.
A year into the future.
Well,
6 months into the future.
So I look at it as so from a little bit of background in finance. So you think of it as a fiscal year or as a year of operation.
As a production year for cars.
As a production year. Yeah, exactly. So, 2026 year cars are going to come out September onward, right? And even though it's still technically this year, they're calling them 2026. So iOS 26, macOS 26 are ushering us all the way through the next dub, essentially.
Right.
And then by then you usher
I'm
in the
more
next.
cynical. I think they're just trying to one-up Samsung.
Oh, absolutely. Come on. They're trying to, look, the syncing number is, they want to blur the line.
I have one recommendation for Apple.
Okay.
They need to drop the numbering on the iPhones. Look, MacBook, it says MacBook Air on it. No, it doesn't even say that anymore. It used to, under the display. Now it doesn't even say that at all. Okay. Does it have a number? No. Does Apple refer to it in their website by number? No, they just say MacBook Air M4. My point is, they never numbered their Macs. Why are they numbering the iPhone? It doesn't make sense to me. This is so un-Apple. You just need to stamp iPhone on the back of that thing and call it a day. Yeah. And every year you have the iPhone bracket 2025, iPhone bracket 2026. Why?
Actually, I'm expecting them to do that when they announce the next
I really hope they do that.
That will be hey, we recently renamed our operating system and now we are no longer calling our iPhones based on numbers. It is based on the year, because it absolutely makes no sense for us to.
It's so on Apple.
We were talking.
Like the OS, I can kind of understand. It's important to know what software version you're running, right?
Most people don't know, though.
Well, they don't. But my point is, I can see some kind of logic for developers. This is a developer conference, okay?
I know.
So
fair. I know. It's like
we
Google
keep forgetting
I/O.
that. And actually, I'm really excited about two things about this WWDC.
Okay.
From a logistical perspective, they didn't announce any products. Good. Because it taints the experience, I think, as a developer. You're going there to find out. It's like going to Google I/O and getting devices announced. I don't think that's a good thing. No, I mean, I like getting the toys. I'm the first one to walk away with a new phone.
Oh, no. I remember the 3A. 3A came out at I/O. Yeah. I think that was the last one at I/O as a piece of hardware release. But
the point is that also the other thing I think they didn't do is they didn't make any apologies. They, it's very Apple. I would have liked them to acknowledge a little bit that they fumbled last year with like Apple Intelligence being kind of a disaster. But they at least gave us a lot of meat, and this meat is in the developer version that we can try right now. There's nothing they talked about that doesn't exist. They at least learned that lesson. And in fact, we got a lot more than we expected. And one of the things I'm most excited about, honestly, I could care less about 90% of what they announced because I'm not in the Apple ecosystem that deep. As long as they don't mess up the core of what my Mac does, I'm happy. And, I'm still not a big fan of iOS, even though I have to say that I appreciate its simplicity and I recommend it to many, many people. But I'm very excited about what we saw the iPad being able to do. It's not the default. If you don't like your iPad to be a dumb ass device, you can do that, but you don't have to worry about it. And that is nice. But at the same time, now we have windowing. We have a real multitasking experience that's even better than Open Canvas.
Yep.
You know,
it should have been there since the release of the M series. When they put the M series on the iPad, that needed to come along with the desktop experience. We couldn't keep it as iPad OS being closer to iOS than it is to Mac OS. And I think that was my biggest concern at the beginning. And I do have an iPad, but my iPad is like much older, like probably like 7 generations old.
Apparently it'll work on every iPad that supports iPad OS 26. So if yours does,
mine is sold. I don't think it even gets updates anymore. Let's just say that. iPad OS. So I'll say this. Tablets have their space. They're obviously a functional option because what we originally anticipated, like, okay, it's just a bigger phone. People are not going to appreciate it. The moment you start differentiating it and giving it the functionalities to be more of a smaller laptop experience that's more pocketable, easier, lighter, has radio connectivity, has good cameras, decent experiences, and connectivity. You need I/O. You need to be able to plug in an external drive to it. So and of course,
you need apps.
Absolutely, and I think it was inevitable from the announcement of the M series when they first put that in, and then putting an M. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have an M3 or an M4 in an iPad. It's like crazy.
The M4 first came out on the iPad.
Exactly, like just oh my god. So I am very happy about that. I'm again. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be testing that because I don't have.
I want to, and now that I have a connection with Apple's PR, I'm actually thinking of requesting like maybe just even an iPad Mini or something, just to try it out because
to see how it works.
Because here's the thing, right? You and I both reviewed the awesome OnePlus Pad 3. The thing is amazing.
You read my mind.
Price is incredible. Performance is off the charts. The thing is beautifully made, but it sucks, and it doesn't suck because of OnePlus. It doesn't suck even because of OnePlus's Open Canvas, which is amazing.
Yes.
It sucks because of Android. And it sucks because there's no custom tablet apps. And it sucks because I can't be productive. For example, and again, this is not OnePlus's fault. This is actually Google's fault. Google Docs, the actual document software, the Android app for tablets doesn't let you 2-finger scroll with the trackpad once you're in a document. It's a bug. It's been in there for years.
Oh my
and
God.
On the iPad, I got Narav to test this. On the iPad, the app does let you use the trackpad to 2-finger scroll. Every other app on the OnePlus Pad double finger scrolls just fine with the trackpad. If you use Google Docs in a web browser, it works like a charm. Mm-hmm. What is wrong with Android tablets? Just what I described. That and the lack of apps. Yep. And so do you need a Snapdragon 8 Elite to watch Netflix? No. Do you need it to game? Yes. But are you gaming on a tablet or are you gaming on a Red Magic 10S Pro?
I will say, okay, so here's my experience with using tablets because I've had generational upgraded tablets. So I've had the Xiaomi tablets, I've had the Redmi tablet. I've gone from premium to entry level to very budget. The processing power on a tablet absolutely matters, and I'll say mostly because of the UI and the elements in the system, the fluidity of how the experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Is. You go from a Helio G100.
But if you're just watching Netflix, do you need that?
No, absolutely. If you're buying a tablet for content consumption, you don't need an 8 Elite. You don't. The OnePlus Pad 3, I think, is overkill for what you're doing if you're just using it to watch content.
But why does it exist when you're better served with an iPad?
So
because there's an ecosystem of apps.
Yes, but there's also an interconnectivity ecosystem between OnePlus, Oppo, and Realme ecosystem. So this is where so for me, my daily driver is a Find X8 Pro. Okay.
Right.
It's not a OnePlus, but it's practically a OnePlus. It runs the same core system, operating system. It supports the same codecs, the same functionalities. And my Find X8 Pro, as well as my OnePlus 13 and the Realme GT7, all connect via O+ Connect directly. Yeah. And here's the other thing that I to this day still appreciate. What we saw in the N5, the connectivity to the Mac. Right? The ability of controlling your laptop.
Connect. Yeah.
The O+ Connect. And that works wirelessly, dude. Remember, you can be outside of the house and connect to your Mac. Works so much better.
Well, actually only works on the same network right now, so I don't know how you managed to get that to work.
On Oppo, it actually has access to be outside of it when you're on Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Yes. So your Mac has to be unlocked. And it has to be sitting at home, connected on Wi-Fi, same account, and you're able to connect over.
So here's a question. I couldn't try this. I didn't have time to try it. So say you have your Find N5, right? Or your Find X8 Pro in your case. I've been using the Find N5 a lot lately. And I want to now do the, O-Connect, whatever, the connectivity between that and the OnePlus Pad. I don't have the same accounts on OnePlus as on Oppo, do I?
So
because I have separate accounts right now.
It is separate accounts. So you do need to log into the same account on both. So
but can I log in with one OnePlus handle on an Oppo device?
The O Plus Connect application. Yeah.
I didn't know that was the case. Okay, that's interesting.
This is where the tricky is. So it's the app itself, because technically they're all using.
No, I get it.
They're basic.
I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't try it.
On the O Plus Connect, you're able to log in with your Realme account, with your OnePlus account, or with your Oppo account. All three of them have connected logins. So the only thing you need to make sure is that your O Plus Connect on your MacBook or on your PC
is the same as the account.
Is the same as the account on your phone.
Yeah. Or
and
your
that's
tablet.
it. And the reason why I'm explaining the whole why does the OnePlus Pad 3 make sense, or the Oppo Pad 4 Pro, it's those connectivity. It's once you start functioning across ecosystems.
Yeah, no, I get that.
You know what I mean? Transferring my data from my OnePlus 8 Pro directly into my Mac by just wirelessly transferring the data.
Yeah.
Editing files on my phone, those little things. And then when they added the Mac connectivity, because I love being able to connect back.
AirDrop capability.
All of those things are, and one of the other stories, I think, if I'm not mistaken, later on, we're going to talk about more interconnectivity with, the Apple ecosystem. To me, on an Android ecosystem, this is the key to make a tablet functional. It's not just a great tablet on Android, but it interacts with your other side. I can transfer content from my OnePlus directly, or my Oppo directly to an iPhone by using the iPhone Share. Same thing, connecting it to transfer back content to my phone. So that interconnectivity between devices, Oppo and OnePlus are one of the only companies doing it. I mean, Xiaomi is coming into it as well. I'm not going to say they're not there. I just feel like
Huawei's been doing it for a long time.
And well, again, the unforbidden fruit conversation.
Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about that.
I haven't had my hands on a Huawei for some time.
It's so long. I know. I still have a Huawei laptop here running Windows 10 or 11. I don't know. Maybe
I'm
11.
looking at one right now.
Anyway, look, all I want to say about WWDC to kind of summarize is that I'm going to link to The Verge. I know that some of The Verge articles are subscription-based. I have a subscription, so I don't know. I know it's pain for those of you, but there are lots of articles out there that summarize what happened there. I think there's a lot of good stuff. If you're an Apple ecosystem user, you're going to be very happy. I am happy to report that I feel like Apple is finally making real things happen after this, virtualness of things with Apple Intelligence the last year, which kind of muddied the waters and the experience for a lot of people.
Big Vision Pro update too for people that if you have a Vision Pro,
we got
absolutely.
Apple Watch update. We got iOS, obviously. Got Mac OS. It's called Tahoe, which I think is a great name for it. Much better than 26, in my opinion. Please drop those numbers. And then, for me, the big thing this year for Apple, and the one I can't wait to get my hands on, is the 17 Air, the slim iPhone, because how the hell are you going to make it happen with a single camera? I really hope they have some kind of trick up their sleeve. I've been saying this for a while. If you probably know this, TK, from listening to the show, is I'm hoping it's a 200 megapixel sensor that's an ultra wide and that can zoom in further and further and further because of its being an ultra wide.
I want to say Realme did that on. I forget. I think Realme did that on one of their phones. If you remember, a couple of years back, they put a high megapixel camera sensor, and they basically sensor cropped every time, so they didn't have to.
And I think this is a valid thing. If you use AI, the kind of AI zoom we see on our Find X8 series, right, or the OnePlus 13 series. That's the thing. When my conclusion about the S25 Edge was, if you put a silicon carbon battery in this thing, and you add the AI zoom from the freaking Oppo OnePlus ecosystem, you're done. You're done. That phone is done. And yet they're so close, but Samsung doesn't take risks.
So, okay. When I first, I don't want to belabor this one. I think the S25 Edge is a stepping stone. I think what we're looking at with the S25 Edge.
It's the first of a kind.
It's the first of. And I think with every first of, we've always had little bit of concerns and doubts on how did it start and where it's going. They're testing the water. They want to see how it goes. And in certain ways, I feel like they're also trying to one up, Apple, knowing that the Air is coming in at some point. They want to have a thin phone.
Yeah,
I think for what it's purposely designed, it succeeds at providing us a thin, light phone that's functional.
It's really functional.
It is absolutely.
Those of you who are not heavy users will be fine with that battery.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, trust me, if you used to charge your phone every night, and right now you have like a modern phone that, you go to bed at 30 or 40%, you'll go to bed at 10%, but it'll be fine.
It'll be absolutely
It's not going to
fine.
be a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's just the heavy users. Like if you're on your phone playing games all day, watching videos, TikToking all day, I don't know.
I was going to say doom scrolling. That's usually what kills your battery.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But no. So
and the camera's solid. I mean, lack of telephoto is real. I'm glad in a way that they limited the telephoto to 10x. Because if you look at what 30x does on the Razr Ultra, which has a very similar setup, right? It's bad. You don't want to go that high. Please limit it to 10x.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You want them to look like actual images at some point. But no, I'm with you. But I just wanted to kind of say that in perspective, just because I think there was a lot of give and take. And for a first generation, I think it's an absolute banger for what it offers and what it does. And I hope the next generation, as we talked about, better camera tech, maybe, or even better battery tech, will take it to the next level. And I think, again, when Apple invents the form factor, it becomes popular. We'll see how that goes.
That's the reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also want to quickly mention that kind of a public service announcement. I haven't tested this yet. Maybe you have. Android 16 is out on your Pixels, folks. Go get them. I'm too chicken to try. I downloaded because it's my main thing. I'm like, I'm going to wait a week to see if my Wi-Fi still works. Like, I want to see all the bugs in Reddit before I make a decision here. What's your experience? You obviously did it.
On the 9 Pro, so the 9 Pro XL and the Pixel 9a, both of those two devices I've updated. My 9a is my son's, so he's been using it for the last 3 days. Overall...
Wait, you used your son as a test bed?
Keep it in the family. Pourquoi pas?
I know, but he's probably also really into it, right?
No. He's very much, yeah. So he's been a Pixel user since the Pixel 5a. So every time I get a Pixel A series, it's always in my mind. It is automatically it's his. So as the 9a came in, I updated him from the 8a to the 9a. I think overall performance wise, because this Android 16, at least this version of Android 16, isn't very big visually, like jarring, kind of like when we had Material U kind of thing.
Kind of like liquid, whatever it is.
Liquid glass.
Liquid glass.
Yes. Transparent. It's the ability of seeing through things. Yeah, no. He hasn't really noticed that much difference. Battery life has been pretty consistent, same as he had it before. And of course, 4G, Wi-Fi, everything around. He hasn't complained once about it. For me on the 9 Pro XL, same thing. No problems at all. Battery life is pretty consistent. I think some of the major updates that they talked about were going to come out later. I did get a chance to test out desktop mode. Connects, still works pretty fine. You force desktop mode and resizing windows. Easy. You just have to connect the mouse to it. Small improvements, not a lot, but I think for people, and if you're on the beta channel, you're probably 2 beta updates above what we are anyways, because they're ahead. As this was being released, the beta channel was already ahead. So I think if anything, maybe Google just wanted to make the same thing as Apple does, where they drop announcements at the week of their I/O or their main event. Apple's releasing something. But short answer is if you're on a Pixel and if you'd like to try it, for the most part, from 15 to 16, at least this version of 16, not a lot of big like standout feature changes, minor changes to the media player, some notifications, continuity experiences. If you're getting an Uber deliveries, it'll show better tracking, some segmentation. I think you have
I'm
lot
totally
of
on board. I'm just going to wait another week or two, maybe mid-June or something. Well, it's almost there. So maybe
wait till at least a patch update is on there before.
First patch. But look, it's out and it's exciting that it's out and it's not out with the first Pixel 10s. I was kind of honestly expected it's going to be a little longer, but so kudos to Google for doing that in the middle of WWDC also.
Hey.
Why not?
Touché, mon ami. Touché. That's exactly.
Let's rapid fire with some quick news and then talk about this unobtainium. Speaking of Google and Pixels, we have rumors of the Pixel 10 series getting magnets. What I mean by that is that it's going to get Qi 2 compatible magnets. So potentially natively built in. And honestly, this rumor would make sense to me because because finally somebody needs to do this as a mainstream Android player.
Okay.
Like Apple has been doing it since the 12, guys. 4 years now, and we don't have, other than the HMD phone, which I have, and the magnets are weak AF on that phone. I would like to say it's kind of useless. So I would like to see finally an Android, a big player, especially here in the West, just do it. And like Samsung was going to be my savior on that one, and they didn't do it. And it doesn't look like they're going to do it anytime soon.
No,
and
the Edge, I mean, obviously the Edge wouldn't have it.
OnePlus could have, but they did it in a half-assed way. So did Oppo. And then if Google does it, oh my God, I am so happy if they do that. I want it. I think this is one of the best thing that Apple has ever done, ever.
No, absolutely. Faster charging, magnetized options on the back provide us not only just, it's a better experience. It's an access to it, and not just the Apple ecosystem, but accessories that you didn't even have access to before.
I mean, I have a case on all, like, here's my iPhone 16e recording audio for us as backup right now. This does not have, this is one of the few big faux pas when I did my review that they don't have the magnets built in, yet it has wireless charging. And guess what? This case here, from UAG, by the way, thank you UAG for sending me cases. I'm not a big fan of these massively bulletproof-ish cases, but hey, I'm going to take free cases when I get them, especially when they have magnets in them.
It's actually a requirement for me. Every single device that I've purchased or I've received, especially for long-term use, it has to have. My
Samsung monitor from my Mac Mini M4 right here, that's recording video right now, I've got a magnet ring on it, like taped in the back of it, so that I can use my iPhone 16 Pro as a webcam to record my podcast.
Nice.
As I can just clunk it on there. And honestly, it's the best thing ever. Like, there's so many applications, and you can buy the magnets. So you can buy the magnets for both putting on the back of your phone. I think OSnap sells them, and the negative version too, the one that would be attached to something else you want to clunk phones onto.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, I know for those of you on Android who might not have tried this yet, do, because it's a game changer. And then you have this entire ecosystem of accessories from Apple to choose from. Even OnePlus makes a power bank. I have it. It's super sleek. It's aluminum. It's so beautiful. It doesn't fast charge. It doesn't have Super VOOC. It's made for iPhone essentially. It's like a OnePlus accessory for the iPhone.
It's perfectly sized for the OnePlus 13 and the OnePlus and the Oppo Find X8 Pro, and it works perfectly on iPhone as well. Yes, absolutely. I picked up mine from what's it called, Singapore, and it was the Oppo version of it, cool. As it was available in the store.
I managed to finagle one from the lovely folks at OnePlus. Thank you, Spencer.
I need to bug them. Yeah, maybe I'll bug
all right,
them.
The next rumor we have is rumor-ish is that the Galaxy Z. Well, it's not really a rumor. Somebody actually at Samsung, said that it's the thinnest, lightest, and most advanced foldable yet, referring to the Z Fold 7 from Samsung.
But they're also throwing the word ultra in the conversation.
Yes.
This is scaring me a little bit because...
two things could happen here, right? Okay. One, they could completely mess this up and it's not thinner than the Oppo Find N5 or not thinner than
what Honor is going to be releasing in the
V5.
Or the Vivo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or the X5. Yeah, I'm thinking of V5 for the Honor Magic V5. Because they're not going to do a 4.
Nobody does. Yeah,
but
definitely not.
Either it's that and we get a 200 megapixel camera like the special edition last year, right? From Samsung that never made it to North America, or they don't. Like, it's either they're doing it and it's competitive, like it's close. I'm not expecting them to beat the champions, but come close with a 200 megapixel camera, and then it kind of is an ultra phone, or it's a marginal improvement. It's their thinnest. But here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I want to be optimistic because I really deep inside, as much as I pan Samsung all the time, I love them. Because this Edge, man, Edge really made me happy.
I want it to be as thin as the Edge. This is really where I'm going. Like, just give me that. Give me that thinness.
Well, the thickness of right now the Z Fold 6 unfolded is the thickness of the Edge. So we want thinner, right? We want like 4 millimeters or something.
Well, the reason why I said that is in the teaser that they put out in their newsroom article, they didn't have any cameras bumping out of the back that thing.
Oh, so you think it's flush?
So this is where I'm getting a little skeptical. Okay, it's like
Right.
they're talking improvements, they're talking the words ultra, but I don't
But
know
it's
if
also stylized, so maybe it's just a render, right?
I'm thinking this is where I'm attributing. I'm hoping basically as we get closer, the renders get more revealing.
Yeah.
It's just that the way it opened, and because they show you the full silhouette of the phone, you see no bump. So I'm like, are we talking about a camera that is fully integrated?
I think the aspect ratio, like the width to thickness, the length of the edge to thickness, looks really impressive. So I'm really hoping that it won't be quite as good as Fine N5 or Magic V5 or Vivo X5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Honor and Vivo still haven't released theirs.
I think it will be better than SE. If it's better than the special edition from Korea last year, the Z Fold 6 SE, I'm on board, because we need Samsung to step it up a notch. Like, come on. Especially now that you have the title, for at least for the next few weeks, on the non-folding slim phone, right?
Yeah.
And you've demonstrated that this is a viable form factor that feels absolutely delightful in hand. It is a revelation when you hold an Edge. And I was surprised at that. I mean, I wasn't panning it. Like, a lot of early tech reviewers were like, oh, come on, like, no telephoto, that battery, 3,900 milliamp hour, it's going to stink. And then I wasn't like that. I was like, let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
and
you have to try
even
it.
Who was skeptical, was like, wow, when I finally got one. And I think the wow factor doesn't wear off. Like, I had it in my pocket for almost 3 weeks, and it's still have it in my pocket. Still wows me.
I posted a picture on X yesterday of me trying to put the phone in my pocket, on my jeans pocket, and you don't see even a crease in the jean pocket going in. And I don't wear baggy pants, so just to say that if it doesn't show up in my pocket, that device is thin. And this is just you have to, if you're even remotely interested, go down to a Best Buy, go down to your local carrier.
You experience it for yourself.
You have to hold it in your hand.
Because you have to. It's a game changer. You go back to another phone after that, every other phone feels like a freaking brick, like overly bloated, terrible thing.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm with you. Peace. You're right.
So let's see what happens with the Z Fold 7. I want to believe Samsung. I want to believe that you can be competitive. Let's make it happen. Yes. And then finally we have on the team. Well, we have a couple of things. We talked about the Oppo Vivo. I kept calling it the X5, the X Fold 5.
Yes.
That's rumored to be coming very soon. But here's a really puzzling thing. Is that they're claiming on Weibo that this is going to work with Apple Watch. And so here's what I'm thinking. Okay. And I'm going to link to Ben's article on 9to5 Google. I'm thinking, and you tell me what you think, that this is Oak Plus Connect. They've got something now in their software that lets you somehow connect to an iOS device that has a watch connected to it. It's not. I don't think it's a direct thing.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So you'd have the Apple Watch connected, let's say, to your iPad, and then you'd connect
at least
through
in
it.
China, they might be able to get away with somehow reverse engineering Apple, but then it's going to be a battle, right? Apple can continue reverse engineer. It's like that thing. Remember that happens with Beeper.
Yeah. I remember.
It's like no. So, but what if they don't directly talk to the Apple Watch, and you can just set up like a virtual machine of an iPhone on your Mac, on your desktop?
Yeah. Or even your iPad.
Or your iMac or whatever,
your
exactly. Mac Mini. And it connects, and the Apple Watch somehow is connected to that via Wi-Fi or via because here's what I do all the time. When I'm in Canada, because I don't want to constantly roam on T-Mobile, because I don't want to be, after a while they cut you off if you roam too much. And I have a Canadian SIM, right? So I want to leave my SIM in my Pixel. I use my Canadian SIM in another phone. So I tether off that other phone. Well, guess what? Right now I'm wearing a Mobvoi watch of some kind because my battery is charging on my OnePlus. My OnePlus Watch 3, it connects to my tethered hotspot. And I get all my notifications and everything. Like, even if I'm away from my US phone. So what I'm trying to say is that an Apple Watch works the same, even if you don't have an LTE Apple Watch. If it can see Wi-Fi, and so I can imagine them creating software on this Vivo phone that gives the watch a hotspot, and the watch connects via that Wi-Fi to a quote-unquote iPhone that lives in the cloud, on your Mac, right?
Like
and
a
it
VM,
works. And then you get all your notifications and everything else. Who knows? Something like that. And of course, maybe there's a relay or something. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm curious to see how they're going to pull it off.
It's definitely, I would be very interested to see how they do it. And if it does have the opportunity to open up the ecosystem to allow non-Apple users or iPhone users to be able to use an Apple Watch if they want to, it's interesting. But I guess, again, OnePlus, Oppo, and Realme with the O Plus Connect it's the generational upgrade since the N5 came out. Now that it supports Windows, works on Mac, works on M series, Intel series, connectivity transfers, all of that. It's just so seamless. I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to make it happen. I'm hoping it does go internationally, except that this is, if I'm not mistaken, I think the X Fold 5 is not an international device.
Yeah, it's going to be China only, I'm pretty sure.
So even if they're able to do it, it may just be, like you said, a Chinese edition ROM that maybe will come out in the future generations of Vivo, maybe the X300 or the VC series. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. The last thing we have is Unobtainium. The Huawei Pura 80 series has been announced, and I'm going to focus on the Ultra here by drooling with you for about 5 minutes before we wrap up. But man, Unobtainium is so sweet. When the things we can't get are always the things we want. And
always.
And I have to say, I've been very clear in my stance since day one on this ban. I don't think that consumer-grade Huawei stuff should be banned. I think that we have enough cybersecurity experts out there that can test this stuff and make sure that Huawei phones and laptops and tablets and watches don't call the mothership in China and, export all of your data to it. That can be checked and proven. So, I've been against that ban. I can understand maybe from a strategic and defense perspective to ban the networking equipment, the cell tower stuff. I think that's
where a lot of the conversations.
That's fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But why did you have to do what you did? And I think there's only one answer: to protect Apple and Samsung. There's I think there's some lobbying going on here that we don't know about, but that's my theory. But look, Huawei was coming into the US at CES, right? What was it, 2018? And then boom, carpet got pulled from under their feet because
the day of the announcement,
AT&T
it wasn't even
chickened out because the government breathed down their neck. That's basically what happened. And you can be on either side saying, well, they had good reason to, Huawei, blah, blah, blah. Or you can be like me and say, consumer devices, let competition. We're in the country of capitalism here. Competition should rule and should let us decide who wins, right?
Absolutely.
As long as you don't start lobbying and doing stupid stuff in the background, which unfortunately happens a lot. But here's the thing, and you don't get too greedy, which also happens a lot. But here's the thing, Huawei has managed to somehow recover from this. They are making some incredible devices, from the Trifold Mate XT Ultimate, from the MateBook, Fold that we saw 2-3 weeks ago, the laptop tablet running Harmony OS Next. Holy crap balls! That thing I wanted so bad. The crazy little foldy one, that's like a flip competitor, but it's got a 16:10 aspect ratio. You know the one I'm talking about. It's amazing. They're making amazing stuff, and they somehow supposedly have a 5 nanometer chip in that foldy laptop tablet thing. Wow. Okay, look, but the Pura, come on. If you are like me and you've been following photography on mobile for as long as I have, and I'm not telling you because you have, TK, I'm talking to my audience here.
No, of course.
You know that the last phone that I got from Huawei was the P40 Pro Plus, and that I still have it. And it still takes incredible photos. It's over 5 years old. And
P-series always, yep.
I have been a fan of what they do photography. They're the ones who did the first to do a 1-inch sensor, the first to do a variable aperture, the first to do multiple telephotos on the back with the
multiple
P40
lenses,
Pro Plus.
Triple camera setup on the back, was first on the Mate 20 Pro.
Correct. And then the first quad was, before we got the S20 Ultra or S21 Ultra or whatever. The bottom line is the Pura series are now their flagship camera phones, and they keep cranking up a notch because I'll let you read up. I'll put a link to the normal.
No, absolutely. I'm looking at the renders,
series,
man.
But
it is
the Ultra
crazy.
has, get this, it's doing what Sony did with that variable periscope thing, but instead of variable, it's just 2 steps. And the way they're switching between them is by sliding two different lenses above that final prism of the periscope. Like, you know that animation of the guy who gets his brain exploding? That's
Absolutely.
where I'm like, the creativity, the ingenuity that comes with that. Amazing.
It is. There is no doubt. Yeah. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been a fan. I am a fan, and I'm still a fan of Huawei. I've visited their centers. I've visited their amazing. I want to call it European experience tour of a lab in Shenzhen and in their facilities in China. It's amazing. I really hope at some point we're able to find a medium ground. They're still present internationally. They're, in Europe, they actually have stores. In Germany, I've walked into a Huawei store. It's still nice to see that they do have a presence internationally. They were once number one, and they could again potentially reach that. It just, again, I can't wait to hear more about the Ultra and see how much more it's able to perform. Yeah.
We don't know anything about the processor on this. It's expensive even in China.
Of course.
It's like, starting at $13.91 US in China. That's unheard of. Like, Chinese flagships are usually less than $1,000. It does have a beautiful display. All that is a given. But this camera system, 1-inch main sensor, okay?
As it
has f1.6 to 1.4 variable aperture, completely variable.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like
multi-step.
Yeah, okay. They've done it before. It's not the first time. The telephoto is a 50 megapixel, and it has that crazy periscope with two lenses that can slide from one another. There's an animation of the mechanism there. It gives you 3.7x and 9.4x optical zoom. Oh, wow. It has sensor shift OIS, so they're moving the sensor instead of the lens.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, my head is exploding as I'm speaking to you guys here. And no, it gets better, because in order to achieve that magnification, get better or worse, it's a 50 megapixel sensor, but in the 9 point whatever, the higher telephoto, it's actually cropping the sensor down to 12 megapixels.
Oh, okay.
So it's a combination of optics and sensor, which, is going to be detrimental in low light. But here's the thing, it's still a spectacular feat of engineering. And I think it's more spectacular than what Sony did, because Sony's the difference between the max and min zoom was relatively minimal, right? Comparatively to this.
Yeah. No, it is absolutely stunning. Design, colors. I'm looking at the
beautiful.
colorway. Yep, it does.
So we can only, what's the word?
Dream of unobtainium.
Covet of the unobtainium.
No, absolutely. And I do hope that at some point it is available in the European stores, because I'd love the next time on my trip to Europe somewhere, go in there and check that out. My trip to Paris was too short. I didn't get a chance to go.
It's called Pura X, by the way, the folding one. It was Pura. I thought so. Pura X, the folding one.
Oh, the flip one is a Pura.
Yeah, the flip is Pura.
So the Pura
it's not a camera Pura. It's just Pura. Pura X. Anyway, look, we're going to wrap up here, but man, I want, like, every time I see a Huawei phone that's like this, like the Pura X, the same, I want it. But then I realize I want to import it and spend a lot of money for it, and I can. But then there's no point, because 6 months from now, I'll just feel like it's going to be in a drawer and it's not going to get used.
I just bought the X200 Ultra.
Oh no, you caved.
I
don't blame you.
I had to. Ben,
they didn't send you one?
No, I was.
Wow.
I'm on the global side of the house, not the everything side of the house.
Yeah.
So I reached out and I spoke to them, and the X200 Pro, absolutely banger of a device. Very, very nice.
All they send me is the V series anyway.
So I was happy that I got the X200 Pro. But when it came to the Ultra, I reached out, I connected, and then unfortunately at some point they ran out of units, and then also their window of promotion, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of expired.
It's the same with me with the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. I never got one, and by the time I talked to them about it, they're they're trying really hard, and then they're like, we're out of units, nobody's returned their unit, and we're sorry. And I was like, oh.
It was a tough one, and I think what the kicker for me was when I was in Paris with Ben, I got a chance to play around with his phone, but we also saw some of the samples coming out of it, and he took some of the shots. I incorporated some of those in my video, and it's just so nice.
It's so good.
I even caved in for the camera kit, because you have to get the lens. You got to get that telephoto.
Oh yeah, you do have to get the camera.
I got the box delivered today. That will be my
video upcoming on TK Bay's YouTube channel.
If nothing else, the unboxing and mind-blowing experience
Yes.
TK Bay.
Well, that's a good segue for you to tell them where they can find your stuff and your social media handles.
As usual, you can find me online as TK Bay or TKDSL8655 on Twitter, on Instagram, but on YouTube, it's just at TK Bay. Just make sure, let the beard guide you. That's usually the best way to say it. When you find the channel, awesome. You see the beard, that's me.
Yeah, and you can also, you have a channel in Arabic as well.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Sorry. Always the Arabic channel. That one's actually pretty straight. Same, just Tariq, Tarek Bay, one word. At Tariq Bay, that's the Arabic side of the channel as well. For anybody that speaks Arabic as well. So
there you go. And folks, you know where to find me. I'm at Tank Girl everywhere. TNKGRL, like the comic book character Tank Girl. Just drop all the vowels. That's my handle. It's, mostly I'm active on Threads and Insta and Blue Sky, but I'm also on X still, for better or for worse, and other places, Mastodon, whatever. So, if you want to chat with TK and I, you know where to find us. And then the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the major platforms. So if you're here for the first time, please subscribe. And if your app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. There is a YouTube channel, which doesn't get a lot of content much right now, but it's there. I did the video on the razors, for example, hands-on recently. So if you want to see that, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And then if you want to support me, there is a Patreon, patreon.com/tankgirl, again, TNKGRL. There's a video version of this podcast where you can see our faces, see us show devices, and get sometimes extra content. I'll leave some bloopers in there and stuff. So it comes out every week, a day in advance from the audio free version. And, it's $5 a month for a podcast on video every week. And then you can enjoy it. And so please consider supporting me with Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. You know I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And TK, so nice to have you back on the show. Appreciate you being here.
Always fun. Always fun. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And I know we scheduled it ahead of time and it locked in. Everything aligned. It worked.
It's all good. We'll have you on the show again. And folks, we'll have another show next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.